Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bell the Bell with Bobby Blaze. I'm your host, Professor Jeremy Vilmur. Joining us now, Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B, Bobby Blaze.
Hello, Professor. Hello, all you good wrestling fans out there listening and tuning in today. We appreciate it very much. It's me, Double B, Bobby Blaze, and we're going to have some fun today, my man.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, Bobby, I'm having kind of a weird week. I live on the third floor of this apartment building, right?
Okay.
And I keep finding this fucking frog on my balcony. I don't know where he's coming from. I keep finding this damn frog out there. So I was like looking around to see what kind of frog he might be. And I came down with two possible options, right? Just like a regular like frog and a horny toad. But I couldn't figure out which one he was. And then I found out, do you know the difference between a frog and a horny toad?
I do not. And I've seen a few frogs in my day.
Yeah. Well, a frog, you can tell by their sound because they say ribbit, ribbit. And a horny toad says rubbit, rubbit.
Good God, googly. Sheesh. What's that, a dad joke or something? That's a gobbler joke or something, man.
Yeah, I got that right out of the Bad Dad Jokes book right there.
Okay, man. Yeah. So rub it. Man. Rub it 10 more times. I'll pay you $quarter and 20 minutes to quit.
Hold it in your mouth till the swelling goes down.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Lord. Professor, my goodness, man. Well, this week on the show, we weren't going to do dick jokes, I didn't think, but we'd have enough of them in there. But, yeah, we're going to do animals in pro wrestling or maybe animals that are podcasters. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Something like that, man. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, hope you're still with us, listeners. Oh, man. So real briefly, let's just do some house cleaning here. I watched the Dark Side of the Ring. I'm not going to do a full review of it this week like we did on Bruiser Bedlam, which you just told me before we went on the air. That's done quite well for our listeners. If you haven't listened, go back and listen to last week's episode. But apparently most of you all already have, and we appreciate that. So get it out there for us. This week was Luna Vachon. I think it's the mini face of Luna Vachon. Real name Gertrude. And I was going to do a Gertrude joke because that's my grandmother's name, one of my grandmothers, but I won't make fun of the names. But what I noticed was I knew a lot of people involved that had met her and been around her. Some of the people interviewed, obviously Dave Heath, her husband, and I saw Penelope Paradise. I hadn't seen her for a long time. Girl down in Florida, used to wrestle everywhere down there. They made mention of Tom Nash, and I'll just leave that at that because he didn't want to be interviewed. And then, I got to meet Luna a couple of times. I saw her in Tampa wrestle one time at the old Sportatorium there. And then when I was in WCW, her and Dave, I think they was working in New York. I don't know if they were on contract, but he was Gangrel and she was doing her thing. And they come up to Orlando, or they may have been just in the area and knew we was taping for Universal. And they come by and spoke to all the Florida guys, and that's some of the guys I was talking to at that time. And of course, I knew Dave, way back when some of this stuff starts taking place. They talk about the training on there, and then of course they go on about her career and stuff. It looked really, really interesting. Like I said, it's I skipped through this a little bit. I did know some of the people involved in her life and stuff, and it's tragic, of course, because it's the dark side of the ring. We tried to make ours fun last week, and I think we did. But anyway, if you get a chance, catch it. It's going to be one of the sadder ones, I think. Kind of just. Again, that's why it's the dark side. I just wanted to point out that I knew several people that they did interviews with, and people's names resurfaced and things like that, and that's always interesting to me to see some people that you knew. I hope they're all doing well. Maybe one day they'll get me on the dark side, and I'll have to lend my talent to someone's life or something. But you know what? I will hold my breath to that day because I'm not really interested in doing it, to be quite honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they got a hold of me for something, I'd have to have some real knowledge about it and turn my voice into something, very powerful for that particular episode if I was ever asked to do so.
Yeah.
But dealing in the dark side, Jeremy, I don't know that I really want to be involved.
You know what? Honestly,
sometimes
Bobby,
it's hard enough for me to watch.
Bobby, I have trouble. Look, I've known you for 4 years now, I think.
4 years, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I have rarely heard you say a bad word about anybody, even if it was just saying what actually happened. So I don't think you're really cut out for the dark side of the ring. I don't think
no.
Yeah.
I figure it's most people that get shit spoken about them and talked about, and this, that they're getting it from other people, whether it be reliable resource or not, whether it's the truth or not. But I just, it's just like I did my first book there. I didn't want to go and shit on anyone. If I knew who was doing the drugs or who was cheating, you know what? It's not my fucking point to, I'm not my brother's keeper. If it's not affecting me in my life, I just, it's not my business. And it certainly wasn't my business to go and say, oh, and so, well, they're doing this, or, that's just, that's just not my style.
Yeah.
And besides that, I won't get all spiritual or biblical or anything like that. I'm just saying, let he who lives in a glass house throw the first stone, man. I got a lot of shit on me that, I don't need coming out. I mean, I'm not, I'm just saying, I don't, I'm not going to say anything about someone, maybe when I say so-and-so sucks or something like that, or, but yeah, there's no need for that because I don't want fucking people, getting out my stuff. It's hard enough just to exist on the planet, Jeremy, without people having to smear your name through a muddy campaign or something, or something that happened 20 fucking years ago or whatever, Yeah, I'm not cut out for that. I know a couple podcasts that I'm not cut out for that I don't do. And one of them is because I'm a Cornette guy, and I just flat out said, I'm not going to go on some show that, they don't get along with Cornette. That's their beef. That's not my beef. But also I know I'm not going to let them badmouth my buddy. Well, not buddy, but, a work associate or, former employer rather. If they don't get along with them, that's fine. But you can conduct an interview possibly without bringing it up if you're a professional. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Just because you don't like the other person. Well, I work for the person. I have nothing bad to say about him. If you don't want me to mention him, I probably won't be on your podcast. Probably one of the few I've turned down too.
Yeah. That's that thing where you got to kind of know as a podcaster, you got to know who you're inviting on.
Yeah. And it was a nice invitation, but they asked me, and I said, no, this would be my stand, and I don't have anything bad to say. And if you said something, it would probably be an awkward conversation. I don't think we're a good match. And pretty much that was in the conversation, some DMs and stuff like, okay, we're good. I had no hard feelings. I still watch some of the stuff they put up on YouTube, the person I'm concerning. I'll never appear on that show,
Well, that's totally fair.
Yeah, it's fair to both of us. And more importantly, it's fair to the listening audience. If, you get on there, if I told some bullshit stuff, or try to have an argument back and forth with someone trying to change my view on someone, I don't think it'd make for a good podcast.
No. And, here's the other thing. Think about the guys who listen to our show. And if you tried to pull off telling some bullshit story in front of that kind of audience, it would never work. And
absolutely,
you'd never hear the end of it.
Yeah, rightfully so, because we've got a good listening audience, and they know pretty much, man, on this show here, we don't bullshit around. We stated early on, we weren't going to shit on other people. We've done that to about 99% of the time. We've not even given the opportunity. We've had to back off a hot second or two on something, but we've not intentionally went out there spreading vicious rumors, or even if something's come up, we've said, well, let us look into this, get with us, hit us up on our Twitter, or whatever it is. So, I think it'd be a tough sell If they say, yeah, Bobby, I heard you on another podcast and it's completely contradictory to what you tell us on your podcast, or that we've heard on other podcasts in the past, you know. So, yeah, you're right, man. Good point.
Yeah.
Good points. What else, man?
Well, let's see here. So you've got November 6th is quickly approaching here.
Yes, it is, man.
Catch us up on what's going on there.
Yeah, I've got a couple new announcements. November 6th, Ashland, Kentucky. It's the Bluegrass Con. It's a first time in Ashland. They hope to turn this into an annual event, and I think it'll be largely based off of the first one, of course. So they're really looking for a good turnout. It's from noon until 6 p.m., as the professor mentioned, on November 6th. It's former WWF stars and up-and-coming local wrestlers. I heard the Art of Grappling champion, Brox Boulder, is going to be appearing now since he's the champion for that organization. FTC is one of the big sponsors, as is the Time Warp, one of our sponsors. But we've got the Godfather coming in, Billy Badass Gunn, Coco Beware, Lex Luger, Gail Kim, myself, and Magnum TA. I mentioned last week, Jillian Hall is going to be there, WWE Diva. She signed. I mentioned Rhino and Jimmy Hart. Now, I know a couple more that are coming that I cannot state because they're under contract with another company and they have to be verified through the Time Warp or Earl at the Time Warp to make sure I can announce them. But this one, I can announce. This is the latest edition that's going to be there, folks. It was Alistair. Now it's, how you say it?
Malachi.
Malachi Black. Malachi Black is going to be there. And they could not announce that to this past Monday evening after a certain hour. They wanted to make sure that contract was announced. And I had permission as of Thursday evening to put that out on a podcast. So I hear he's a real hot property right now. I saw him wrestle several years ago. I was telling Jeremy off the air, I can't remember who it was, but as Alistair Black, and I was very, really impressed with him. And, I hear he's making waves down there in AEW. So it's Malachi, excuse me from about messing up the guy's name, Black. And Jeremy, what's his wife's name? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Zelina Vega.
Yes, well, I think she's going to be there as well, from my understanding, from what I heard. So anyway, November 6th, brought to you by the Time Warp and FTC. If you're in Ashland, of course, this podcast goes worldwide. We have some fine hotels here, and we have some nice ones. Just to let you know, some decent restaurants. Come spend some time, spend all day at this. I think there's some local shows going to be there within an hour and a half drive. You'd leave here and be plenty of time to make an evening show somewhere. But it's at the, I've had several people ask me this week, and it is right downtown Ashland. It's at the Kentucky Highlands Museum. And people were asking me, was it at the a couple other places? But they've apparently rented the entire fourth floor. It's a large building. Used to be many years ago a big department store. So if I recall how big those floors are, there's 25 vendor tables, and with all the wrestlers coming now, man, it should be a really, really good gig, man. I'm looking forward to it. Again, there'll be several other, up-and-coming stars that are in training right now. They'll be there assisting and helping with all the wrestlers. Each person be assigned a table. So it's just going to be a really big deal, man. It's looking real good. And I also heard on Tuesday that Thursday I heard that the advanced ticket sales are picking right up, and that's always a good thing. You can get them at the Time Warp in Ashland, and I don't have in front of me, Jeremy, where you can also get them out online. I will try to get that next week before we go on the air. That way we'll have it before we go to the show. But there is an online location you can purchase those as well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Jimmy Hart. Because he's always just, man, the guy's nonstop. Looking forward to seeing Stan Hansen again. I've only met Magnum one time down in Charlotte at a Caroline's Memories Tour. I'm looking forward to going up and shaking his hand and hopefully talk to him for a few minutes. And hopefully if all these people I mentioned, Earl, we got 2 tables down there, and I'm going to have one for my gimmick table, and we'll have a podcast, Jeremy. Yes. So we'll have our computer set up. I've got arranged it so far, and I've got 2 laptops, 2 headsets, and 2 microphones, and got someone that's going to be working with me there at the table when she's not busy doing some other stuff. And between a couple other people and myself, we should be able to round up a few people, get them to stop by the booth for 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll talk to them or have previously spoken with them and say, hey, this is the good professor on the other end. It's the bell to bell Bobby Blaze. And Jeremy, you can be prepared to do what you do, man. Interview, talk, listen, and we'll put that together for a future podcast.
Right. Yeah, that all sounds great.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Speaking of time warp, Jeremy, why don't we go ahead and drop a time warp spot in there right now if you don't care? Hey, video gamers, sports fans, and nostalgia enthusiasts. This is Bobby Blaze. Are you ready for a time warp? Time Warp is a brick and mortar hobby shop with a high selection of everything sports, gaming, and collectibles right in downtown Ashland in 2 locations at the Ashland Town Center. They've got vintage toys, sport cards, and collectibles. Tons of wrestling merch. It's the largest selection of memorabilia in the tri-state. Time Warp also has an extensive inventory of vintage and current video games and consoles. It's a 100% must visit for retro gamers. Time Warp buys your collectibles daily and are open 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They're only closed on Christmas and Thanksgiving. Check out their Facebook page at Time Warp Ashland.
All right, everybody. So, there you go. Go check out the Time Warp if you're in the Ashland area or LA, yes, as Bobby likes to call it.
That's right, buddy. And we're going to go into our animals in pro wrestling. And this is the most appropriate place to put this one at, is because the 2 fellers that done this gimmick were from Ashland, Kentucky, my hometown. I grew up listening and hearing about stories about these 2 guys. They were known as the Scuffling Hillbillies. And as I got older, I got to know Rip Collins and Chuck Conley, and they were the Scuffling Hillbillies, and they sold out Madison Square Garden way back in 1962 about 4 times in a row, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And you can fact check that. Yep. And they weren't the animals, even though it was barefooted and had their bibbed overalls on, their straw hat, and straw in their teeth, they ran around with a possum, Jeremy. That was their gimmick. They had the hillbilly stomp, man, but they brought a possum to the ring. So the first animal we're going to talk about coming to the wrestling ring is a possum. What do you think about that?
I think so. Opossums, I think, are nasty little critters. And they see, my great grandmother was oaky as hell. Even when she lived here in California, as getting to be a little old lady, she'd go shoot a possum out of a tree and cook the damn thing. And when I realized that there was shit cooking that had thumbs, I was just grossed out. And I've run into, when I lived in the Santa Cruz area, there's a lot of wild animals in the hills there, and you'll find like possums in your garbage cans and shit, and you realize like they got these weird red eyes and they hiss at you.
Yep.
And they're way fucking bigger than you think they are. Like,
yes, they are.
Way bigger. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those damn things. I don't know that I'd be a fan of anybody who wanted to carry one around. They're nasty little critters.
Well, I saw 2 here recently in my neighborhood, and they both were dead out there. They was roadkill. I've heard tale of from my stepdad growing up. He ate it as a little boy way out there in the country where he grew up to go out and get a possum. And just to me, I'd have no desire. I think I was about 10 years old, and they had one out in a metal wash tub basin type thing they were going to eat later on. That was at one of my uncle's house. I never had a desire to eat a damn possum. But I guess the Scuffing Hillbillies, they had one that they could put it on a little leash, and they had trained it. And I guess they'd rub a little gimmick. I think Chuck told me it was bacon grease on the opponent's boots. And they would, the possum, of course, go chase that smell, trying to lick that smell, and make a gimmick out of it.
Yeah,
obviously go over pretty good with them.
Put on a show.
Excuse me, damn, Ben Hillbillies, But yeah, I'm not a fan of the opossum or the possum. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think the possum is the version they have in Australia, and the opossum is the one we have here in North America, I think.
And I think you're correct, and I appreciate you checking that out for us.
Yeah, and they're both nasty little fuckers. And they're one of very few marsupial animals in North America, though, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I've got them in my neighborhood. I think they're everywhere. Hell, when I lived in Florida, we had raccoons, possums, snakes, gators. We had it all when I lived down there. I lived out in the woods at one point. When I first moved to Florida, I actually lived outside of Orlando, a place called Longwood, and we was out there in the Wekiva River. And hell, we had possums and raccoons and, like I said, snakes and gators, all kinds of shit, talking about animals and stuff. But when I moved to Tampa, not so much. And then Baltimore just had big rats. I'm sure if I'd have looked, I'd have found a possum, but I wasn't trying to look because the rats were big enough there. But here in Kentucky, where I'm at, man, I guarantee it right now, I know we're 2 dead possum out, like I said, that I passed just in 2 different directions, 2 different streets, both of them about a half a mile apart. One running east and west, and the other one north and south, and there's dead possum in them. So they go all directions, and that was with about a half mile of my house. But yeah, fuck them possums. But the hillbillies were over, so we'll keep that number 10, the possum. Yeah, and move on to number 9.
Well, as I was reading about the Scuffing Hillbillies, I saw that Ashland, Kentucky. Shit, these are probably Bobby's cousins, and that's kind of where I got stuck.
There you go. Well, could have been, but I know, I went to school with Chuck Conley's children. He had 3 boys, and one of them was actually my age. Chuck passed away several years back. I had a picture of him myself. I had visited him in a nursing home towards the latter part of his life. I'd visit him every couple. Chuck and I become friends. Rip died in 93. I met Rip when I was trying to break into business. At one point he ran a school here, way back when, just a small thing that they had on a little local TV. And of course I was way too young then, but, I used to see Rip. He had a flea market, is what I was going to say. And I'd see him there and he'd tell all the little stories. But, Chuck and I become friends later in life. My brother, he'd come to our shows. We actually had used him on a couple of shows at the Armory here. Always introduced them, to the crowd and make them feel good, deservingly so. And one of the funniest things he done one time, I was out there and I was going to wrestle the Stroh, who had Classy Roy Bass as his manager, and Chuck was going to be in my corner that night. And the way we set it up, Chuck was on a crutch on one arm, just on one arm on a crutch. And I never forget it, man, the way we set it up. I was talking on the microphone, and Roy Bass comes over and grabs it and starts taunting Chuck with it, and Chuck makes a step. And when he does, Bass kicked that damn crutch from out of him, and Chuck was about 62 at the time or something. Dude, he took a picture-perfect bump right on a fucking wooden floor where the National Guard Army had this really nice wooden floor. Chuck, he kicked the crutch out from under. Chuck took a fucking bump, man. And, man, I helped him up, like I had to help him up. That's, supposed to be the hometown, my hero at the time,
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be in my corner. And Chuck, always a family-friendly show, And here's Chuck, like I say, probably about 62, if I recall, and he grabbed the microphone. He goes, "Let me tell you something, you little bastard." And the place popped big time, man. And he said, "My man Bobby Blaze here tonight," And so, yeah, but anyway, Chuck's children have been deceased. They all passed away. But I do know, Rip's sons. I got to know Frank, which is his oldest one, but not very well. But he has a son named Tony, and I played ball with Tony all through school and stuff, and I still see him around town. So I still see some of the relatives of these guys, but I don't think we're cousins, Jeremy. Just so you know.
I've heard stories about Kentucky. I just thought it was worth a gamble.
Well, they make good practice.
Exactly. That's the rumor I've heard.
Okay, all right. Let's move on now, please.
Let's go on.
Before we talk ourselves into a shoot. That's going to be a pretty one.
God.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right, man.
We're going to talk about the British Bulldogs and their puppy, Matilda.
All right.
And
let us know about it.
Was an English Bulldog, and she was a big sweetie. Yes, she was. And I have to imagine she pooped everywhere, and because that's what they do. But for a period of time in the 1980s, Vince McMahon was convinced that everybody needed a mascot. Mm-hmm. And so they started bringing out Matilda. And if you know anything about English Bulldogs, they're kind of like trying to walk a fire plug about 90% of the time. They're short, they're heavy. They want to go the direction they want to go. And if you run into one in the middle of the night, it's just like tripping over a coffee table. Bobby, you got any memories of Matilda the Bulldog?
I've done some shows there early on. Let's see, what was that, 91? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, just hearsay stories, Sadly, I heard stories about him, I guess, trying to abuse that dog. I don't know. Never saw anything, and I hope that's not the case because I can't stand anyone to be mean to a dog or even kitten cats, stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I just remember the dog being the gimmick, in the late 80s there. And I think I said I did it in 91. I think Davey was still there. I'm not sure if Dynamite was. So I don't really know if the dog was there when I was there. Apparently, and if I saw her, I forgot her.
There was apparently a second dog. It had a boy's name.
No.
Yeah, it was something like you would name a butler in a comic book. Or
yeah. Yeah.
But apparently there was a second dog, but Matilda's the one I remembered.
So. Yeah, that's the one I remembered too. Yeah. And that's mostly from TV, like I said, because they brought her every TV taping, and why wouldn't you? That's the whole idea of getting your gimmick over.
Exactly. So, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that's and I would say a lot of people, as we go through our list, that'll be most people say, "Oh yeah, I remember that bulldog. Didn't someone have a bulldog?" Or something like that. But of course, that was also because how popular the British Bulldogs were.
Oh, they were huge.
Yeah. We had them on our tag team list. They were way up there on that in our top 10 on that. I think they finished in the top 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think we had them right up there with the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express.
Yeah, they were just
on our list.
Yeah, they were just an exciting team to watch because their speed and technical proficiency combined with their power just made them unlike anybody else that was out there.
Yep.
And then you get that plodding bulldog next to him, this graceless, slobbering fucking animal. It's just kind of a funny juxtaposition, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay.
Okay, well, number...
Cute, so,
Oh, okay. Well, they are. This next one here, man. Coco Beware and Frankie the Bird. I'll be seeing them November 6th. Now, there's no guarantee that Frankie will be there, but they're saying Coco Ware will be there November 6th. But what was the mascot he had? I'm just saying a bird. Won't you smart me up to what kind of bird it was?
Blue and gold macaw is what it was.
Okay.
Which are really, I mean, if you like birds, they're a really beautiful bird. They're the larger one. They're from South America. I believe they're part of the parrot family, but don't quote me on that. If you actually know biology, I may be off.
Gotcha.
They can live, 60 to 80 years, I think.
Wow. So there's a chance I might see Frankie.
That's what I was going to say. It was only 40 years ago, so there's a real good chance that bird might still be alive. I believe they can learn to speak. But they're one of those just easy to train. They've been trainable and part of the pet sphere for a long time. And it was just kind of a cool thing I don't know how you get Coco Beware and go to Bird, but it was kind of a cool gimmick for him to have come.
It was. And he come out and he'd flap and do the arms. And I did meet Frankie. Bobby Fulton used to do a show every summer up in Columbus, Ohio, for the Jenkins Parsons Businessman Association. And it was funny how I remember that, but it was a big show downtown, outdoor show, and he had booked Coco one summer, and he had the Bird with him then. Of course, not a lot of time to talk.
Sure.
It's July is hot. We was in a big tent and stuff, but so I didn't go up and talk to the Bird. I did speak to Coco for a hot second there, but I didn't get to speak to Frankie very much. Have you ever been around anyone that owns any birds?
Oh yeah. Actually, I've owned birds. My dad used to own birds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just curious. I feed birds every day in my yard. I've got a couple feeders set up. My favorite bird is the cardinal, Jeremy. That's our state bird here in Kentucky. And I got some different seeds earlier this year. Mostly sunflower seeds was the most popular ingredient in there, and so they would come down, and I had several nice sights this summer of some cardinals that come into my yard, and I was happy about that. Kind of make me smile.
Cardinals are nice looking wild birds.
Yeah.
Really
So that's pretty cool. I just never, when we were kids, we had a couple little parakeets, I guess you call them. We had Blue Boy, and someone else there was another one. He was blue, obviously. The other one I think was like more green. She might have been Green Girl. I really don't know. I know there's two of them, and my mom had just remarried, and we've got this family that come together, kind of like the Brady Bunch, if you will, really.
Yeah.
Because children were involved on both sides that become my really. Honestly, my brothers and sisters, and I said stepdaughter, that's basically my dad growing up, from my brother and I. But we had a couple birds all through grade school. I don't recall. Seemed like once we moved to a bigger house away from downtown area, I don't know if the birds were served up for lunch one day or if they died or they flew away, to be honest. Not trying to make a joke. I just don't remember what happened to them damn birds. I know we had them in grade school, but after that, they were gone.
Yeah, so, I don't think those little budgery parakeets live very long. And they're not super trainable or anything. They're just kind of pretty, and they make a nice sound.
Yeah, and my brother may tell me when he listens back, he might say, "Bob, don't you remember? One of them fell off the stoop, and one of them fucking flew away." I don't know. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
my dad had this African gray parrot for a while, and my dad threw some fucking raucous parties back in the day. And so as a kid, we'd go over there every other weekend, and my dad was throwing parties on Friday or Saturday night, pretty typically. And fucking this African gray parrot would get bored. He'd get out of his cage. He'd go in the kitchen where everybody's hanging out, and he'd start tipping beer bottles and start drinking beer when nobody was watching him. He'd get fucked up, shitty drunk, and then he'd start talking nonsense and walking into walls and stuff. So you had to watch this fucking bird because he'd get shitty if you weren't watching him. He'd start stealing booze and he would get drunk.
Jeez, was it sound like a pirate's bird?
Oh, kind of, yeah. If you go look up an African gray sometime, they're kind of a stout, heavy but short bird, and they're like one of the smartest animals on the planet. They can, if you train them, they can get a vocabulary of like several hundred words, if I remember right.
Wow. That's cool, man.
But yeah, he'd get all fucked up and just kind of wander around and bang into shit. Squawk his head
like
off.
The life of the party, man.
Oh yeah, well, he'd squawk his head off, and he'd just take random words and string them together into like nonsense. It was really kind of. I mean, I don't think it's funny to get an animal intoxicated, but when I saw this happen that time, I was just like, "This might be the funniest thing I've ever seen." This is fucking crazy.
Man. Well, I don't know if this is funny or not, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So, lady has a talking parrot, and this goes back to your toad joke, just so you know. Lady has a talking parrot. She goes to work that day. Knock comes on her door. The parrot says, "Who is it?" "It's the plumber. I come to fix your sink." About a half an hour later, knocks on the door. The parrot says, "Who is it?" Guy said, "It's the plumber. I come to fix your sink." Guy does this throughout the whole day, just knocking. He's fucking exhausted. Finally, just fucking passed out, dies right on the fucking front steps. The lady comes home and says, "Oh my, who is it?" The pair says, "It's the plumber. He came to fix the sink." There's your dad joke.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's get the fuck out of these bird jokes and toad jokes. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find us at, Jeremy, on social media?
Oh, God, yeah. You can find us. Well, you can find me at The Geekish Cast. You can find Bobby at BobbyBlaze744. You can find our joint account at Bell to Bell Blaze. There is also a group and a page on Facebook under Bell to Bell Blaze, and you can get to our website by going to belltobellblaze.com. We are planning on building the website out more, but we actually need to do something with it. But for the time being, the groups on Facebook are probably the best place to just stay up to date with what's going on, and Twitter's probably the best way to interact with us.
Yes. Very well. And I love that. We always get a lot of positive feedback after our shows, and we appreciate it very much.
Very much.
So, now this next one, we're moving right along here. Thanks for plugging our social media sites. I heard this story, Jeremy, and I'll let you tell it too, while you got the notes written down. We're going to bring in a rat, and that happens to be George the Rat, that apparently Jim Cornette owned, that he let Mankind, when Mick Foley was doing the Mankind gimmick, use down in those, I guess he was down at where Tex used to hang out, down in the boiler rooms and stuff. Yeah. So tell us a little about George here.
Well, George was a big black rat with a gigantic long tail and balls the size of the Empire State Building, apparently. If you listen to Jim Cornette's podcast, you will often hear Jim Cornette go on about his lovely old pal George the Rat and his gigantic balls, and some kids were fucking around on so like Jim and his wife were driving somewhere and some kids were fucking with them, so Jim grabs the rat. I think
it was in Philly or something.
Some shit, yeah. Grabs the rat and holds it up with his George's gigantic swinging balls were right there, and fucking started fucking with the kids with this rat, who the kids left him alone after that. But Jesus Christ, rats are creepy, and a black rat with giant balls is creepier, you know.
And no, I've never met George the Rat in any of my dealings with Jim Cornette. So, and I'm thankful for that. I'm not a fan of the rat. If that's your gimmick, more power to you. I don't want mice. I don't want rats. You know, that's just it. But
well, and if I remember hearing right, somebody even said that when that rat died, Jim Cornette was busted up and like took a day off of work too. And Jim Cornette's not like...
Well, he loves his pets, man.
Yeah, and Jim Cornette's like, he will go to work sick enough to shit his pants in the ring. You know, he said he had a stomach flu one time, took a bump and shit his pants and kept going. But his rat died, and he's like, I can't, guys, I'm emotionally distraught. I'm going to have to take today off.
Well, we do draw attached to our animals, you know. And if that's your pet, if a rat's your pet and you grow, love it and emotionally attached to it or whatever, then, it's going to hurt you a little bit. So sometimes those animals, as you know, become part of our family. They become our family, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
So I have, on this list, there's several of these animals I would not want to own, you know.
There's a whole bunch on here, you know. I hate, rats creep me out. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I mean, I've been around them. I've pet one before. They just give me the fucking willies.
So nasty little bit. I saw the world's largest rat, Jeremy.
Yeah.
It was at the, I think it was at the Boyle County Fair. That's in Danville, Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken, in that county down that way. We had a Smoky Mountain Wrestling show. Now, I don't know if this was a slickster from New York City trying to tell people that they could pay $25 to see the world's largest rat, but you have to realize you're dealing with people from Kentucky. And when you stepped up there, the guy had a fucking possum in there. Pretty slick gimmick, pal, but that's not the biggest fucking rat. That's a possum. And so I guess it worked in some places, but it didn't work there. And we were on the quote, the little midway or whatever you call it that they had set up for this county fair. And it was, this was back in, 94.95, something like that. It's just I think most people realize, for a fucking quarter, when everything else is $1 and stuff, it was just a sideline little gimmick that was a fun thing. I don't recall anyone getting hot about it. Most of the guys, I think guys, it was me and my friend Bill was refereeing some, and the headbangers, I think we all walked through there together and just had a big laugh, like, fuck you, you got us, and the guy just, one of them carny people, just like, okay guys, fuck off. Next, kind of thing. No heat or anything. Yeah. So, anyway, I saw a possum once in a wash basin that was the world's biggest rat. But I don't want any part of rats. I hate rats, man. Yeah, I really do.
They just give me the squealies. I just do not like them. I just discovered that the largest rat breed in the world is called the Sumatran bamboo rat. And their bodies without a tail, 20 inches in length.
Ah, jeez.
They look like beavers too. They got little beaver teeth. They're pretty creepy looking. See, one of the things I don't want to go to Louisiana very often for is they have those things there called nutria, which are just giant swamp rats. And those things are nasty. Yeah. Nasty little bastards. I guess they go out at night on the boats and shoot the damn things.
Well, I know years ago here, I don't know if anyone still does it, young boys and stuff, but you have to tuck your pants legs in your socks or tape them down or tie them down shoelaces, and people would go out and shoot them here behind some of the downtown here at the shopping center, and they just hearsay from guys, probably a couple years older than myself, that would do it. They'll run right up your damn pants leg and stuff, because they go down there and hit them lights and rats going everywhere. Mm-hmm. You got, this again, these guys were probably, I was probably 14, 15, and they were probably like 20, 21 years old. So guys, just a few years ahead of me, guys that are out of high school. It was something to do in a small ass town that had a shopping center, So we would go down there, me and my buddies, we would go down when we got our license and stuff just a couple years later. We never went down to try to shoot them or anything. It was fun, though, to go down there and just flip your lights. And you just see all these damn rats, boom, everywhere. It was down behind a Kroger's. There was a Kroger's and a couple cinemas, theaters, They actually had a pet store down there in that strip mall. But, every once in a while on a Saturday or something, you'd be out, or maybe on a Friday after a game or something. And it'd be fun to, turn in the parking lot there, and you go back behind it and hit your lights, and rats would go everywhere. And I was like, woohoo, small town, Kentucky or whatever. Unlike our cousins that were tipping horses in other small counties, or tipping cows rather, we were just flipping our lights on to chase rats, Yeah,
I know.
Never got out and chased them, of course.
Probably the two generations older than me going to the dump with a 22 and shooting rats. That was a lot of fun for them.
Yeah, I'd heard that here in Ashland too. We had a big dump that people would talk about. Again, it's probably for me, one generation, the guys that are probably 10 years older than me now could probably tell us, the guys you're talking about are 20 years older than you, like you said, that group of guys would go do that kind of stuff. So, anyway, we're going on to something a little bit more popular than a rat on this particular show. We had the Hillbillies with the Possum at number 10. We had Matilda with the Bulldogs at 9. Frankie with Coco at number 8. We just now talked about the rat at number 7. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we're going into number 6 here. And this is probably be one of the most memorable, one on here, I would imagine. And that is Jake the Snake Roberts having Damien. As you put on here, probably the best use of an animal mascot in pro wrestling. I have to agree with that. That was over, man.
Yeah, it was just...
That was over.
It didn't matter if he was face or heel. That using Damien the way he used him, whether it was like you knock you out and drop it on you, or you're about to pull some dirty business, so he gets him out of the bag and chases you with him or whatever.
Even
those times where it was just a vacuum hose in the bag.
I carried that.
Yeah.
So I was over in Australia with Jake the Snake Roberts, and I've probably told this story a time or two. If not on this podcast, I think I hit it up on James just a few weeks ago. So we went to Australia. I think Jake was coming from Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico to L.A., and then L.A. to, Sydney. Or by the time he got there, nonetheless, the snake he had at the time died. So, So I don't know that first show, but I think he got there a day late, which would have put him a day of the very first show, because we all arrived several days in advance before the show started. But he had decided to stay in L.A. For whatever reason. I can't imagine. He's Jake. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they had some not garden hose, but like some pool hoses and stuff, and they made it work. But eventually got a hold of people in entertainment. We had a guy that done rock concerts. We had a guy that was a sponsor. His company did, as well as one in lodging. That's why we got to stay at all the Ritz-Carltons and the Hiltons, and a very nice tour, man. I mean, it was excellent with all the stars that was on the show. We treated her very first class, but they got a hold of some animal, snake handlers, and no, not the kind of, attend church in the hills of Kentucky, Jeremy. Just saying. They had a guy and a girl mostly handled it, had a snake for Jake to put into the bag and, carry around. And we were in one town, and he had put it in the shower to let it cool off. As, just, how they are. They like to stay back there and chill out,
Mm-hmm.
And apparently it got loose because Kishi Yamada, also known as Jushin Thunder Liger, lets out in perfectly good English, "Oh shit, snake!" And it had went down into the drain of one shower and came out like, several, 2 or 3 feet away or through a wall into another shower, however much distance between there. And so it went down one, came up the other, and then they ended up getting out of the toilet. However, whatever it was, I don't know. It just, what I'm saying, it's one of those things that they got it. I don't know if they got it. They said if it went down a toilet, I don't know if it came up through the shower. Basically, it went in one, my understanding, plumbing way to when I do.
Yeah.
It went down one shower stall basically and came up another. As it would have done. And anyway, that's pretty funny to see that, hear about. I'm standing there. I heard I was in the actual locker room, but by the time they got it, I was out to the ring or watching the next match or whatever, because I had the situation under control. And then in Smoky Mountain, I don't think there was a snake at all. I did a couple TVs as Jake's henchman when I did the kendo gimmick, and I just had to the best of my recollection, to this dark bag. It was like some kind of vent hose that's pretty thick, and it was all coiled up. Don't know that it was a vacuum, like a home vacuum, but it was a vacuum of some type, a vent piping and tubing, that looked pretty good. It just, wouldn't move. You'd have to kind of, shake the bag on your shoulder kind of thing, whatever. And I was completely happy with that, to be honest with you. I didn't mind. If I would have had to carry the snake in the bag, I would have, but I didn't have to. The couple of appearances I made, and I was actually pretty happy about that, Jeremy. I'm not going to lie. So although my oldest son, at one time, he had 4 or 5 snakes back there in his room, man. Yeah. He had several of them, from a python to the boa constrictor. He had several back there. And speaking of which, Jake had several too, in addition to Damon. And I think besides the Cobra, the Cobra's the one that latched on the Macho Man, right?
Yep.
Okay, and you told me their names, but I forgot their names. You smartened me up to them.
Well, the Cobra was Lucifer.
Okay, Lucifer. Okay,
and yeah, I mean, I don't care how defanged and depoisoned a goddamn Cobra is. You're not letting the son of a bitch bite me.
Yeah, apparently Randy Savage didn't want to bite him either.
I can't blame him. I've actually been to, like, at one of the comic conventions where I did the emceeing and stuff. They had a wildlife animal thing there, and they had a cobra that they were showing. They could only strike in one direction. All this guy's handling this cobra, and I'm just like, dude, if that thing bites you, I'm just leaving. I'm not. You're on your own for being a damn fool at this point.
Yeah.
It just, and it looked oily as shit. I mean, it was, nope. And then later, Jake, I don't know if you remember this, Bobby, Jake actually turned over a new leaf and became a Christian man for a while. And he carried around a white snake that he called Revelation. Okay,
yeah. I do recall that. I did not recall that name for whatever reason, because I should have known that name, but I do recall that snake. And I know he made a transition there at one point in his life.
And then Stone Cold came and killed it.
Come and killed it. One of the greatest gimmicks of all time come out of that. Out of a snake gimmick. Think about it.
Yep.
Man, wow, that's talk about a snake getting you over right there, that's man.
It, yeah.
Damn. We had on our catchphrases episode, I think. That was one of the top ones. Was it number one, maybe?
Oh,
I can't remember.
I don't remember, but I'll tell you what, it probably sold more T-shirts than even the NWO did.
Oh, fuck yeah. That WWF/E merchandising, the power of that thing is unreal, man. Marketing there. And that T-shirt has to rank way up there, man. Way up there. So, Jeremy, I got some T-shirts on our, you've put out there on our website, belltobellblaze.com. Speaking of T-shirts, we've got the Pin Me, Pay Me shirt on there. I've got one. I wore it this week, actually. Saw a couple more around town from some buddies of mine that bought them. I appreciate that. One of my other friends said they're going to buy one. I said, well, I hope you do, man. And we'll see. And also with Sean out there, I've got the Kingslayer shirt, and that is on tinyurl.com/blaze shirts. And he's going to got a couple more shirts coming out as well. So I want to make sure I can give him a quick plug.
Oh, absolutely.
Our friend Sparks, Third Coast Spark. So got to get him and Adam over. They'll be coming on the show in a few months.
Yep.
And the wait time is going to be quicker, be here before we know it.
Boy,
but anyway, yeah. But we got some T-shirts for sale. Jeremy got to put that one up there. Gary Hart will cut a bitch, and I saw someone today, someone added me something on a tweet about that, about Gary Hart cutting a bitch. And they put a bunch of symbols with the razor and this and that. I'm like, I don't recall who it was, or I'd give you a shout out. And I'm not reaching for my phone and getting on Twitter right now during the podcast unless the professor said, Bobby, look that up. And I wouldn't. But so the Damon's over, man. And next we go to...
Well, hold on, Bobby.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to drop in an anchor spot here.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Where we're at, we're moving on to our top 5, I guess, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And
okay.
I cut you off. Do you want to do this one?
Nah, hell, I don't care. You cut me off. I ain't going to get mad about it.
All right.
Nope, that's I don't take it personally, my friend. We're professionals here. Mm-hmm. Why don't you introduce it?
Well, the number 5 here is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and what they call the Komodo Dragon. Once or twice, I swear it was a baby alligator. The thing with Komodo dragons is that their mouth is so full of bacteria that if they even nick you with your tooth, you go septic within a minute and die. So I doubt it was an actual Komodo dragon. It could have been a monitor dragon. I've seen pictures that make it look like he had at least 2 different critters he was carrying around.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of cool when he first introduced him because, I was younger, so for me it was, he's beaten Jake the Snake at his own game. He's got his own nasty goddamn reptile creature too.
Right.
And at least this has legs, so it's not some belly crawling fucking aberration of before the eyes of God. But it was kind of cool. But yeah, as I was looking into it a little bit more, I knew it wasn't going to be an actual Komodo dragon just because, again, the bacterial load is just unattainably or untenably high to work with. So I figured, it'll turn out to be a monitor lizard. But then the first 5 pictures I saw, it looked like a baby alligator. So I'm thinking they just kind of everywhere they went, that morning they'd get up, go to Reptiles or Us, and go, "Hey, what do you got that's really big?"
Yeah, like, oh, here you go.
Yeah, here we go. And then they would take that.
Yeah, and the thing is, the time frame we're talking about in the '90s here, when Vince really wanted people to have these gimmicks to go with them and stuff. I think, and I'm not trying to take anything away from that because of the creative genius that he is, and the business and the turnover that WWF did with the TV and stuff, production that we've spoken about before. Mm-hmm. Not taking anything away from these animals. The thing is, to me, especially when it comes to right here, the last two we've spoken about, Jake is one way because of the psychology used in the ring.
Yeah.
Ricky Steamboat was so fucking over as a baby face anyway. And I know he done the whole, it's a gimmick there. I get that. And I'm definitely not putting down anyone for make money in a professional wrestling business because that's what he wanted to do. But man, Ricky Steamboat was so fucking over. We put him in our Hall of Fame as, the first baby face in there, just so over, man. Mm-hmm. And he didn't need a gimmick, what I was getting at. He had the best one going. He got himself over. He had that body, he had that look, and he can work. Talking, okay, yeah, he could get his point across. But, you add the dragon to it. He added the, I guess the big cape would be equivalent to, something like with Flair's robes, and then he put I'm just saying he didn't just come out in the karate gi or this, just a t-shirt or whatever. So he had quote more charismatic, if you will, when he had the dragon and he blew the fire and those type things. More showmanship.
But they got
more showmanship.
Do you remember that point where everybody had to be a wrestling some other profession? And they didn't call Tito Santana anymore. He was just El Matador.
El Matador, who I wrestled in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
So you definitely remember that.
Yes, I do.
Did you have to eat the flying burrito?
I think I did. But I tell you, who could throw it better than him was Manny Fernandez. When Manny Fernandez threw the flying burrito, you better, hope your teeth are still in your mouth and intact when you come up from that. So protect yourself.
Oh.
But no, Tito was so easy. Manny could go, man. When Manny would throw one, you just watch out, man. He did that. He did the Powerball off the second rope. That was a DDT off the second rope. It's called bull power, I think is what he called it. But no, Tito, when I wrestled him, man, dude, completely professional. So Bobby, what do you want to, anything special you want to get in? And, just easy match. And I didn't run around and he pulled the cape up and I ducked out of the way like a bull or anything. None of that. Just a simple couple of arm drags and some arm lockups and very easy and then the finish. And in fact, and I don't know where it's at right now. Now, it is somewhere in one of these boxes around here at my house. Because I told my youngest son, I said, "You can just have that." One of those WWF books, the Encyclopedia of Wrestling or the History of the Business, and they come on. They're like $25 books. They're hard copies, and end up somewhere in Walden Books Bin or Books A Million, and they're there for $10, whatever.
Oh, yeah,
There's actually a very nice. It's about all the stars of WWF at that particular time, and I am using the word F there because that's what it was at this time, and that's what this book is because it's not real recent. And inside of it, they did an article on each person with a nice color picture or two. And on El Matadors, there's one Bobby Smedley in there. Where's them royalties at, motherfuckers? But no, El Matador, he's got me in an arm bar, and I'm just been overselling for him, and he's standing up there real nice and straight, and, just a real nice, colorful picture, man, in one of those big hardback books. And, so I'm in there. That's pretty cool.
That is. That's actually really cool. It's
just share it with you.
Yeah, there's a similar thing. I had a great uncle who was at 2 POW liberations from camps in Japan, and there was a book that was recording the history of freeing POWs in Japan, and there was a picture of Jack Vilmur right in the middle of two of them. And I always thought that. And Jack died before I was born, so it was just kind of cool to see, that kind of thing. Yeah. And
sure.
So, I could see your kids just like, yeah, it's a wrestling book, but here's the cool part,
Yeah.
Check that out. But for a while there, Bobby, they didn't even call him Ricky Steamboat anymore. He was just the Dragon.
The Dragon, yeah. The Dragon.
That is just, I hate that shit. Professional wrestlers don't need another job. That's why they're professionals.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you're right, man. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Well, moving right along. This one here, this one I had no. If you had told me this before, or I had read this before, I'm drawing a complete blank, Jeremy. To be honest with you, I'll announce it. You tell me about it. How's that?
Okay.
Bruno wrestled an orangutan.
Yeah. Apparently, early in Bruno's career, he wrestled an orangutan, and I guess the match went 25 minutes. Oh wait, did it go 25 minutes? I can't remember the length.
No, he got $25 for each 5 minutes.
That's what it was.
Okay.
And so he was young. He was relatively new to the business, and he just figured, yeah, I'll take it. Well, this was an untrained orangutan, so it was just a big, mean ape. And Bruno, said if he was told going in that he was going to be wrestling a monkey. So he expected a much smaller animal. Of course, what they don't think of when that kind of shit happens is the monkey will get a hold of your face with its teeth and rip it off. But
Yes, I was going to bring it up, man. That is not the kind of animal you want to fuck with.
They're really not. Apes and monkeys, you don't really mess with. He said it was painful, it was unsafe, and he would have never done it again, knowing what he had known or being in a different situation in his life.
So he got about $75 out of the deal, it looks like, right?
Yeah.
Is that about?
I think that was about it, because it only went a few minutes.
He said 15 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
So that'd be $75.
Yeah, and I have to assume late 50s, early 60s. So $75 was, 1.5 months worth of groceries. Oh,
yeah, hell. And I tell you, though, you just don't see us more often because I wouldn't want to see it. I don't care how well that monkey's trained, or an orangutan or an ape or gorilla or any of that. Those things are ungodly strong, man. Mm-hmm. The muscle mass and the strength those animals have, I just wouldn't want to fuck around with, man. There's just no way. There's no way. And of course, that story that went around a few years ago about the lady that had one in New York. I mean, she kept the motherfucker on Xanax and wine all day, and it still ate her fucking neighbor's face off, Like, fuck that. Why you shouldn't be having one in your home anyway. Nope. But I definitely wouldn't want to wrestle one. Probably anything on this list, that would be something I just would not want to wrestle with, or fuck around with, a monkey or an orangutan, and definitely not a gorilla or an ape,
Well, look, an orangutan, if it gets a hold of you, they're like 6 times stronger than a human being. It can literally pull your limbs out like you pull the wings off of a fly if you're like.
Oh, yeah. That's what they say. And they also say they go for your nuts. They go for your manhood.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, Rogan's big on this. He is obsessed with of all the stuff he talks about whenever it comes to this. I listen to Joe Rogan podcast quite a bit, and he's brought that fact up several times, and he studied them a little bit, as far as having a guest on there. He says he's not smart. He just retains what the guests tell him. That's just his definition, what he says, but he's a pretty smart cat.
Yeah. And
he talks about they go for your fucking nuts and they go for your face. They don't fuck around, No. And then when you got if we're in a shoot type wrestling match, but we're not talking, if there's no rules, because they wouldn't know the rules, a man going for your manhood and or trying to rip your face off your skin and has the tendon and ligament strength and muscle strength to do so, that's just something I don't want to be around, man. Not even in a controlled environment. And unless they're behind that glass over there at the zoo or something, which I don't even want to see that, at this point in my life. But not saying I'll never go to another zoo or anything. It's just saying that's not something I want to fucking see. That's just me. I don't need to go up to the fucking, monkey cages or whatever. I've been there and done that. They're nice. And I definitely don't arrest them.
The enclosures they have them in now are a lot nicer than they used to be. So it's not as horrible as it was. So wrestling an orangutan would be like having 3 pissed off Harley racists trying to rip your dick off. Just picture that.
I don't want one of them.
Yeah.
No thanks. So, all right, man, we're moving on right here.
Mm-hmm.
Stu Hart wrestled a tiger.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. You put this up there as a publicity stunt for Calgary Stampede and was done on behalf of the Calgary Fish and Wildlife Association.
Yeah.
Hey, look here, little bastard. You going to sell for me? I know I can't do Stu Hart, but can you imagine him talking to the tiger like that? Or just talking to it in the way he does and going, you're going to sell? Cause I'm going to put you in this hole right here. I'm going to put my finger in your ear here and my thumb's going to come out your eye. I don't know.
Well,
how much was it to work?
I don't know, because I don't know how much you can train a big cat.
Exactly.
The whole thing, I see these things and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Now, when we get to something later, this will come up again. Stu Hart actually had a couple wild animals that lived at the house, apparently. and
it wasn't the wrestlers?
Not just the wrestlers.
Okay. Okay.
As this story was unfolding, as I'm reading this about Stu having the tiger that apparently, just from the brief thing I saw, it looked like it lived with them for a bit.
Jeez.
Bobby, do you remember that story about the cat shitting on the counter and Stu flipping away?
Yes, of course. And I meant to tell you on last week's podcast, that was one of the stories that Bruiser Bedlam would tell. And he could do a good Stu Hart impression, just so you know. Oh, and so I've heard that story several times, but probably the best impression I've heard of it was Bruiser Bedlam telling that story about the cat shit and the scrambled eggs.
Well, so now when I'm picturing this, I'm imagining a tiger fucking around in the kitchen and dropping a big old 6-pound turd, and Stu just, get out of here.
Oh, man. Hey, Jeremy,
Yes, sir.
Let me sell a couple books real
absolutely.
quick. How's that?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Hey, all right, wrestling fans, here we go. We appreciate you listening to this podcast. And if you'd like to help this podcast in some small way, I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to whine, cry, beg, borrow, or steal for your time. I'm just going to let you know some facts. If you would like to help sponsor us, podcast, there's a way you can do that when you purchase one of my books. The books are available on Amazon, but what the good professor has done, he set up a link that will give us a little bit of a kickback, and it's very little, but it's still a kickback, and we appreciate it very much, and I get to sell a book, and I appreciate that. My first book is called Pin Me, Pay Me. That's my first book. Pin Me, Pay Me. Have Boots Will Travel. If you'd like to get that book, just please go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1. And I'm looking at the t-shirt I wore this week, man. It's back in my rotation for tomorrow. Got a nice t-shirt off the website, bell2bellblaze.com. You can get the t-shirt there, or you get the book there as well. But again, it's tinyurl.com/blazebook1. My second book, I kicked out on 2, The Educational Wrestler. That's the one I was trying to say a while ago. It is available, again, through Amazon or through our link on the .com link there, or you can go to tinyurl.com/blazebook2. That's how simple it is, and you can get a copy of that. Now, if you're a long-time listener, which I appreciate all of you being long-time listeners, or if you're a new listener and you've bought our book, please leave me a review. If you have not bought a book, do yourself a favor and buy one, because I'd appreciate it, and a professor would appreciate it, especially if you use the links. And Christmas will be here before you know it. Buy one for the wrestling fan in your family, or on your friendship link, or someone that you know that you think would enjoy this book, because the Pin Me Pay Me book is averaging out at about a 4.5-star rating on Amazon reviews, and I appreciate that. And the I Kicked Out on 2's ranking about 4.2, I think, something like that. So good reviews on it. I don't manipulate the reviews in any way. I don't comment on them. Other if I know someone personally have bought one and left me one, I tell them thank you very much and I appreciate it. Because all I ask for is a fair and honest review of the book once you've read it. So help us along there and help the podcast out by going to tinyurl.com/blazebook1 or /blazebook2 and pick up your copy of Pin Me, Pay Me, or I Kicked Out on 2 at your earliest convenience. I appreciate it very much.
Yep, indeed.
Fuck.
Yeah, and you know what? There are more people watching wrestling now than have in a long time. It's a good time to catch up on stuff like this. So go check out Bobby's book. Buy it for yourself. Buy it for a friend. Buy it because the show would appreciate it.
Yes.
Let's keep rolling here, Bobby.
Yeah. Okay, I'll announce this one once again. You had to smart me back up on this one because it took me a hot second, and then I recalled you telling me about the match. So that is Al Snow and Pepper, because I think of Al Snow and Head, but we're doing animals. Okay,
well,
so Pepper, what was Pepper? Smart me up, Pepper.
Well, so let's drop briefly back to Al Snow and Head.
Okay,
Walmart quit carrying his toy because of Head.
Okay.
So they gave him a new mascot, Pepper the Chihuahua. And somehow
I did not know this.
Yes.
No, I knew he had a Pepper at one time or a mascot or something, but so Walmart stopped selling Head.
Stopped selling.
So you can no longer get Head at Walmart.
He couldn't get Head there anymore. So because he couldn't get Head, he went for Pepper.
Okay.
Pepper did something to piss off the Big Boss Man. So the Big Boss Man kidnapped, killed, cooked, and fed Al Snow his own dog.
Oh, jeez. Sounds like something Mr. Fuji would do.
But Mr. Fuji would do it and laugh. Big Boss Man was just being a dick. Mr. Fuji would call it a joke or a rib, you know. Which led to one of the worst gimmick matches of all time.
Yeah.
They filled the outside of the cage with a bunch of dogs who just continued to shit, piss, and fuck everywhere around the ring. And
so it was a dog. Wait, was the dogs inside the cage?
So there's the cage not hooked up to the ring, so a cage around the ring on the.
Yes, that's why I was trying to recall. Yes, I got you.
And then they've got dogs in that space between.
It's a dog kennel match.
Yeah, they've got dogs in that space. And they said the dogs didn't look angry or antagonistic or anything. They just kind of wandered around and pissed and shit. And a couple of them even took time to breed while they were out there.
Oh, jeez.
And that was apparently in the books as one of the worst gimmick matches of all time. Now, I want to say the idea of showing somebody, even if they're a heel, kidnap, steal, kill, and cook somebody's pet is one of the stupidest and most horrifying things I can imagine the WWE has ever done.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It's up there with, is as poor a taste as the Brian Pillman gun shit that they pulled.
Okay. And it seems to me my best memory is just what you have talked about on this program with me to smart me up about it during that time period. That and Tex, when Tex was, I spoke to Tex some. That's just, I just must have really blocked that out of my mind. I can see the cage and see the dogs, but again, I think I'm just vicariously living it through you telling me about how bad this match was and stuff, to be honest with you. The dogs fucking in the cage and
just the whole thing. But Pepper was a cute little chihuahua, and little yappy dogs they're not always my thing, but then every time I get around one, I'm like, oh, what a cute dog. But yeah, so briefly Al Snow had Pepper the Chihuahua, and then the Big Boss Man, old Ray Traylor, went full dick on him.
Yeah. Well, my best friend growing up, his grandmother had a Chihuahua named Chico, and that was one mean little bastard of a dog, let me tell you. I'm not going to say what happened to Chico sometimes when Annabelle left the room. That was though Annabelle's dog. That was Danny's, my best friend dog, grandmother, Annabelle. And that dog was mean. He's a racist dog.
Oh, that's even
he was.
worse.
Yeah. Yes, he was. He was. But anyway, enough for the. We had. My brother will kill me if I don't fucking bring this up. We had a dog named Sally. Let's see here, I don't know exactly how Sally came into the picture, but at some point we had a fucking little Chihuahua too, and I never liked them little bastards. I ain't gonna lie to you. The little nipping on your heels all the time and barking for no fucking reason. They take up spots on the couch and you sit down on by accident. I mean, never mind. Let's go on to the runner-ups.
All right.
Before we get to number one.
All right. You want to tell us who our first runner-up is?
Yes, I do. I thought this guy would actually make the list as a character himself and as an animal himself, and that is George the Animal Steel Man. I think that's a great gimmick. No gimmick required other than go out there and you're educated, you teach school, let your hair grow out on your back like you normally would, keep your head shaved and paint your tongue green and act like a goofball and run around a ring and eat the turnbuckles and just be a fucking complete animal. And you might get over it. And he did. Yeah. So I like that, man. George the Animal Steel. Honorable mention.
I always find that story about him teaching school in one area that didn't get his wrestling on TV just so he could keep his life separate. I always thought that was pretty cool, you know. George Steele, he looked like he was wearing a vest made out of human body hair. It was the weirdest thing. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. He got over though.
Oh, he did. He was a huge star. And look, I'll always remember him chasing Elizabeth, trying to get her away from Macho Man.
And he had a gimmick, I think it's called Mine. Remember, he had some little thing.
I kind of remember.
I don't remember. Yeah, is this something? And I don't remember exactly what it was. Maybe a little clown or mime, mime gimmick. I don't know, it's something, but anyway, he did carry something at one time.
Yeah, I mean, I vaguely remember it, but not real.
Yeah, that's me. I'm drawing a blank exactly. Too. I just know he's going around saying mine sometimes during that time period. All right, well, who else made the list on honorable mentions?
All right, the number 2 runner-up on our animals in wrestling is Gorilla Monsoon.
Nice. Yeah. Deservingly so.
Yep.
Gorilla.
Big old Sal. Yeah,
yeah.
Gorilla Monsoon, for me, I know him better as the play-by-play guy, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure.
He wrestled a little bit before I was born, and was kind of like coming out of wrestling.
Yeah.
Before I'd really started to watch national wrestling at all.
But that's me. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say, but he, the name Gorilla, I don't know how we don't include.
Right. Right. I mean, that, to me, I recall, and it wasn't until later on, of him doing the airplane spin on Muhammad Ali. That would be something I saw where he had some ring action. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they might have, played something back when may have been watching something WWF related or something back in the day. I don't recall it. Most of my memory are of, the play-by-play, and of course the gorilla position being named after him. Go stand there before you go up behind the curtain, Yeah. But yeah, we had to put him on this. With a name like that, and we're talking animals, you have to put him on that list, man. And so that's our 2 honorable mentions. I know people say, well, what about so-and-so, so-and-so? But we just kept it to a minimum here just to,
oh yeah, because we could have included Road Warrior Animal, Warrior Hawk, Animal from
Junkyard Dog. I was thinking Junkyard Dog.
Animal from the Muppet Show.
And I know our fans love him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, we had a huge Junkyard Dog fandom here. I was going to say Animal from the Muppet Show. I heard he had a tryout when they took Manhattan back in the late 70s. We could have added plenty, but see, here's the thing, Bobby. We have so many slots that we have to work with, and we have to be right. That's the other thing.
Yes.
All our answers are correct, and there you go.
That's right.
Yeah.
We might not always be right, but we're never fucking wrong.
That's it.
Okay, number one. What we did on this one here, we're going to name a couple of them, but mainly we're going to go with Ginger the Bear as number one. And I picked Ginger. We're just going based with the wrestling bear, and that goes way, way back in the earliest of times of professional wrestling. Someone would get a bear and train a bear. Some of them used the muzzle, some of them didn't, some declawed them, some didn't. But Ginger the Bear was the one that the old ICW used that around Kentucky. And, the places they ran, they had, they'd bring it to the show, and they would actually let the fans, if you were 18 years or older, you could participate in wrestling Ginger.
Yep.
And they did that in Ashland, Kentucky, and they did it all throughout, I'm just saying. Back then, they ran towns an hour away from here. Some of the older people, guys that probably 10 or 12 years older than me, they may have, some of the wrestling fans I knew from just playing sports against some of the older guys, they may go to a show occasionally outside of Ashland and say, basically the same show, but no one broke what was, back then kayfabe. They didn't come back, and it was, we weren't smart to it, but we also didn't we was like, oh, okay, really? And that's it. We didn't, and so Ginger wrestled out throughout Kentucky, and in our hometown here, you had to be 18 years old, and basically, you got up in a ring there, and man, she'd raise up on her back legs, and that's all she wrote. Just one spot, she knocked. I remember one boy, I think he was a senior, and he just the paw with hardly any pressure at all, just pushed him away, and that was his experience, because he was kind of our little group, and he was old enough to do it, and it was like he didn't stand a chance or anything like that. It's just one of those things like, I did it, and everyone's laughing and cheering, of course. But also one of the funnier things I saw was on the Sheik's show. Maybe 2 years after that, at the Huntington Civic Center, and I do know, I'm going to give you a little bit of history about this bear. A guy was and I don't think he was an Indian or a Native American, but a guy was doing the gimmick. Mm-hmm. It was a Sheik show, so he had him and Bobo, and he had different people on the show. Well, they did a battle royal with the bear. And this guy, Jeremy, was probably 6 foot tall and 101 pounds wet. He just was tall and skinny guy, probably just turned 18, and probably was just someone's kin there in the back. Go out there and dress as an Indian kid, and we'll get you over tonight or whatever. I don't know. But, man, he was standing right beside the ropes, and that bear was just moving in a circle, and everyone's pretty much jumping over the top rope and getting the fuck out of there, just one of those things that you do at the end of the show. And he was trying to get through the ropes. He was so scared throughout that 2 or 3 minutes they was in there, or when they were in there, and he was between the top and the middle rope trying to escape on his own, and that bear just kind of hauled ass towards him and bumped him. And, man, just kind of nudged him, but it was enough. It knocked the guy. He couldn't control his own bump getting out of the ring. And he hit that concrete floor pretty damn hard,
Oh, yeah.
It just to show you the strength. Like I said, the guy wasn't very big at all anyway, someone that's filling in on a show for the Sheik. Now, the bear man, Dave McKinley from Canada. There's a really good book by Jim Friedman, who's an anthropology professor at Western University in London, Ontario. He's got a book, and it's called Drawing Heat. And I read that book. My good friend Daniel Littlebear from up in Toronto, but he ended up living out in the Maritimes and wrestling out there quite a bit, becoming a referee. He loaned me that book one summer when I was up there, and I read it. It's really, because most of the book is about the bear man and how he started up in Canada. And he was the one also, like I said, brought down at one point. He's the one that was bringing it down to the United States for the Sheiks So that's at least 2 bears there that we know about, the one for ICW and the one up in Canada. So we also know, get ready to have a shot, Ron Fuller Welch talks about, his family owning a bear. If you listen to his podcast, he tells a pretty good story about, his dad owning a bear, or I think it was his grandfather owned a bear, and his dad come home from school one day and was going to show off. I don't know. You can go listen to the podcast. 2 other bear names I found was some pictures of Gentle Ben, and I found some pictures of Terrible Ted. And Terrible Ted was apparently out on the west coast of Canada and come down to the United States, some out there too. And the only other thing I want to say about the wrestling bears and get Jeremy back into the conversation, there's also a couple good pictures, Jeremy, of our good friend Tracy Smothers, man. I'd always heard he wrestled a bear. He wrestled down in Alabama. There's a really good baby face picture of Tracy Smothers standing beside a bear, probably, right around the time he wrestled it, or probably shortly before wrestling it, because it's just a really good picture. And that's pretty cool, man, when you know someone wrestled a bear, So, but Tracy, held his own from what I heard.
Oh, yeah. Well,
anyway.
There were a number, as I was doing some quick reading. I was finding a number of bears. Apparently in the South here in America, it was huge. Like, bear wrestling was a big deal. For like you were talking about, where it was just open to anybody. Hey, pay a nickel, come wrestle a bear. If you win, you get spanked by virgins or whatever the fucking prize is.
Malenko wrestled a bear. I mean, sometimes they'd have the wrestler wrestle a bear. Like I said, I'd heard stories about him wrestling it. As the story goes, he got behind it or whatever. I don't know. I don't think he rolled it up or anything. But, it's just one of those things you hear other guys. Like I said, personally, I knew him, and he didn't talk too much about it. Oh yeah, I got behind it. It's about what he said. It was like Bobby, there's nothing older than yesterday's newspaper. I mean, so that was one of his sayings. But Tracy, every once in a while I'd be brought up, and I'd be around them, and someone would bring it up, and they'd go, "Oh yeah, that's pretty cool, man." But like you said, down here they just let people sign a waiver and you jump up there and skedaddle out of there,
And away you go.
Yeah, there you go, my man. That's it. So I think we had a pretty good list of animals. I mean, the bear has to be number one. Like you said, we know there's more than the ones we named out there, and that was trained and stuff. But again, that's our top 10 animals in pro wrestling. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast, man. I know we kind of threw this together with just trying to think about like what haven't we done yet, what can we do. And man, Jeremy had an idea on some no-shows, and I was like, yeah, that goes one way. And Jeremy, I fed the birds earlier in the day, and believe it or not, I have a couple of these stray cats, man, running and roaming through my neighborhood. They're not rocking and rolling, but they're here nonetheless. And I feed them cats sometimes, and I was sitting there last night. When I got home, we text each other. Let me give you some thought on this. And I started feeding them cats, and I said, "How about animals?" And you was like, "What about them?" And we started shooting ideas back and forth to each other. And that's how we arrived at this top 10 list, which is perfect as it always is.
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Actually, it was a lot of fun. I did notice that Gentle Ben, of course, there was a TV show starring Clint Howard called Gentle Ben. Clint Howard was the little brother of Opie. He was also the weirdest looking actor in human history.
Yes.
That was a fun one. Stu Hart apparently had a bear that lived with the family for a while.
Oh, okay.
And I guess Teddy Hart has, so was that Stu's grandson or great grandson? Has a habit of bringing his just regular domesticated kitty cats to the ring with him sometimes.
Okay.
Like I
think Abe Lincoln wrestled a bear.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I don't know. It's probably on the internet somewhere.
Remember, there was that thing back probably about the same time that bear wrestling was a really big deal. There was the boxing kangaroo thing too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You gotta watch out for their tails, man.
Oh yeah.
That's what'll hit you. They get you a fat tail. Shit.
They'll kick the living shit out of you too.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So anyway, a lot of wild animals out there, man. A lot of wild animals out there.
Well,
and there's some what?
I was gonna say, remember, you don't want to get bit by a Komodo dragon.
No,
that's a nasty septic death.
Bacteria in the mouth. Yeah, yeah. I've been bit by a dog a couple of times, just so you know. I sure have. Once on the back of a calf.
Did I ever tell you? I got to share the story. Just talking about fucking wild animals. Okay, a number of years back. I mean, obviously my dad's been dead for a while. A number of years back, I get a call one day. Say, hey, Jeremy, what's going on? Oh, not much. How about you? Well, I just had to get some rabies shots. What? I said, I had to get some rabies shots. I said, why did you have to get rabies shots? Oh, my friend so-and-so, they trapped a fox on their property.
Oh,
God. Okay. He goes, well, so I went out to look at it, and the damn thing bit me. I said, how did a fox in a trap bite you? He goes, well, it's when I picked him up and tried to pet him.
Jeez.
Fuck, man. That was my dad. He tried to pet a wild bat if he was given the opportunity, you know.
Jeez, no. Anyway, man, I guess that kind of should be closing out our program here shortly.
Yeah, we should probably call it quits for the day. I think we're hour 20 something right now.
Okay. You can edit that one thing out there where I stumbled over the books that I so finally should recall and don't every week.
I'll see if I can get rid of some of that. Yeah, we're at an hour 31. So yeah, let's Bobby, let's get the fuck out of here.
All right, good people. Thank you, wrestling fans, for tuning in. We appreciate you each and every week for tuning in to the Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. Be good to other people, and especially be good to yourself, please. You deserve it.
Mm-hmm. Everybody remember, don't use a monkey gimmick. And for the late Tex Johnson, myself, Professor Jeremy Vilmur, and Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B, Bobby Blaze. Bye-bye, everybody.